Welcome to Sealand News Brief. This week would be 22nd week of the year, and already we are in June. Well, this week, 30 years fixed interest rate went down a little bit, 5.1 to 5. And 15-year fixed mortgage also went down a little bit, 4.1 to 5. And FHA also went down to 4.5%. But 10-year Treasury yield went up a little bit. I think next week we'll see some increase, possibly. And 5-year ARM went down to 4.5. We're going to talk about the ARM mortgage rate later on, one of the news brief. And 7-year ARM remains the same, 4.750. Okay, let's move to first news. A developer announced his plan for Macal site destroyed in 2019 fire. Probably you, when you pass by Route 80 in Patterson area, or exact municipality is Alameda Park, you see this big sign, Macal. It used to be a paper company. The paper factory produced the papers. I think napkins or paper towel, etc. And 2019, it's got fired, and it was really severe damage to this factory. And this in this blaze, the fire, that required 400 firefighters from 50 towns to quell the flames. So it was very famous fire. And since then, it was basically vacant, abandoned. But recently, this Alameda Park officers and the developer, Crow Holdings developer, that said groundbreaking is expected this summer on a 206,000 square feet, state-of-the-art, modern industrial buildings. They will convert this factory, they will convert to a warehouse facilities. And it will cost about 100 million or so. And this Macal is a major employer, used to be, in the region for almost a century, about 100 years. So its red brick factory and its famous neon sign destroyed in January 2019 in the winter season. It's got fired. Okay, and building the warehouse will generate 34 million in economic activity in Bergen County and 140 short-term jobs, the developer said. The company estimates that the site will produce an additional $630,000 in property tax payment to the county, and Alameda Park and Borough School District, and support the equivalent of 240 full-time jobs. So this is a rendering. This is a Route 80, and this is going to be a new building. Well, it's not so much exciting building, but it's just a big warehouse. And but some town officers said, in order to really help the town and the county, it should be a residential complex with retail spaces. But town decided to go ahead with the warehouse because warehousing is the hot market right now. But we have some different news, as we did last week. The Amazon reducing its warehouse spaces. We will have more detailed news later on today. 그 80을 여러분들 지나가시다 보면요, 루트 80, 그 마켈이라고 하는 페이퍼 컴퍼니 옛날에 저도 그 뉴스를 정리하면서 알았지만 한 100년 이상 된 유명한 그 종이 만드는 페이퍼 팩토리인데 아마 냅킨, 뭐 페이퍼 타월, etc. 그런 것들을 아마 만들어낸 걸로 알고 있어요. 한 100년이 됐다고 하는데 2019년도에 불이 나서 엄청 큰 불이었는데 한 50개의 그 뉴저지 타운이 버겐 카운티에서 다 한 400명의 소방대원들이 모여서 불을 잡으려고 했던 그 큰 불인데 그 이후로는 이제 안 쓰고 있었고요. 최근에 디벨로퍼가 이제 발표를 했고 아마 이번 여름에 그라운드 브레이킹을 할 것 같다. 그래서 아마 이게 이제 웨어하우스를 새로 지으면 3,400만 불, $34 밀리언의 에코노믹 액티비티가 이제 생성이 될 것이다. 그리고 county의 property tax payment to the county and element park, etc. 그게 한 63만 불 정도 텍스가 이제 발생된다. 그렇게 지금 내다보고 있고, 그리고 아마 240명 정도의 풀타임 잡을 생성하는 것과 같은 어떤 그 이코노미 효과가 있을 것이다. 그리고 공사비로는 about $100 million 소요될 것이다. 그런 뉴스가 오늘 레코드 통해서 들어왔고요. Okay, the next news is we're talking about Manhattan office space again. Commutes hinder office return. The Wall Street Journal today reported we have a trouble, especially in Manhattan, New York City, is the lowest office return rate among other major cities in the US. Well, the urban areas where people live closer to work have higher return to office rates since the pandemic. And that's what this Wall Street Journal reporting, quoting from different surveys, Gallup surveys, etc. For instance, the Gallup survey last summer, 52% of those who want to work remotely listed avoiding commuting time as a top reason they don't want to go to the office. So it was not the building, it was not so much safety, it was the commuting time. That's what this article found out. It isn't the office that workers heading to the city despise. It's not the office. It's the commute itself, commuting time, and difficulty of commuting. That was the reason. And so employee opposition to commuting means that landlord and cities aiming to refill their office floors may need to do more than just to renovate old buildings or put more police on the street corners. It may require investing in housing, highways, public transportations, and infrastructure necessary to reduce commute times. That was a focus on from this article. So in general, commuting has been unpopular for ages. And economist says it hurts productivity in US. The average travel time to work in the US increased from 25 minutes to 27.6 minutes between 2006 and 2019, according to Census Bureau. Well, it seems like not much, but this is US average, so 2.6 minutes, 2.6 minutes times population, the working population. This is humongous increase in terms of wasting time, because while you're driving, you cannot work at all. I mean, you will be in trouble if you try to do something while you're driving. So that's still our limitation. And well, we don't know, maybe in the future, self-driving module like Tesla and a lot of other companies trying to create now or develop, maybe different story. But for now, commuting is the big problem. And the Wall Street Journal come up with a very interesting chart. Okay, this is the they compiled with this chart. Let's say this is office occupancy rate, 25%, 30%, and all the way 65%. And they put the different metro areas: Miami, Minneapolis, Austin, Texas, and Columbus, Ohio, San Jose, and Seattle, and then San Francisco, and New York. So what does it mean? See, this average travel time, average commute, okay, to New York offices, okay, in general, okay, it's 38 minutes. Okay, but San Francisco, let's say 35 minutes. But it takes only 26 minutes, for instance. Texas, Austin, 28 minutes, Minneapolis, 26 minutes, Columbus, Ohio, it's like 25 minutes. So these towns, less commuting time has more return rate. I think New York Times, the Wall Street Journal did a nice job. Nobody kind of thought about the commuting time is the primary reason of low office return rate. So New York is the worst right now. So I don't know it's all that true, but Wall Street Journal tried to point out commuting time is the main reason. Okay, that's, I think with this chart, the Wall Street Journal was successful. Okay, so again, we might think differently. Looking into a Manhattan market, residential market might be different if we look at this aspect. So that means if affordable housing, house price, we can have reasonable house price, then they may want to buy more apartment, more condos, and they can work, that they can come to the office. Maybe also we can think of that way. Also, another aspect is they need to have provide more housing, okay, and of course the highways and public transportation. So it's a little bit different aspect. 그 월스트리트저널 오늘 신문이 재밌는 거를 리포트했는데 이거는 생각지만 못해봤는데 오피스 리턴 레이트 지금 뉴욕이 굉장히 낮잖아요. 지금 전국적으로 다 아시죠? 지금 뭐 37%, 40%가 안 된다고 보는데 그 반면에 다른 타운들은 그래도 굉장히 지금 많이 돌아오고 있다. 뭐 65%까지도 미니애폴리스 같은 경우에 콜럼버스, 오하이오. 뭐 하여튼 그런데 이 자료 조사를 해봤더니 커뮤트 타임을 조사해봤어요. 근데 뉴욕이 굉장히 제일 커뮤트 타임이 길더라. 에버리지 타임이죠. 그런데 전체적으로 트렌드 라인이 그거를 따라가더라. 그러니까 커뮤트하는 시간이 많이 걸릴수록 오피스 리턴 레이트이 적더라. 그것을 지금 월스트리트 저널이 trying to find out. 그렇다면 그 정책을 세우는 분들이나 그 시티 오피셜이나 이런 것을 뭐 생각을 해봐야 되겠죠. 그리고 in general 그 커뮤팅 타임이 굉장히 그 문제였다. 계속해서 그래서 에버리지로 그 from 2006년서부터 2019년까지 조사를 에버리지 해봤는데 한 미국 전체적으로 2분여, 3분여 가량이 늘었다. 그렇다는 얘기는 그만큼 population을 곱하면 엄청난 시간이 웨이스팅 될 수 있다라고 하는 것을 보여주는 거겠죠. 센서스 뷰로가 그런 통계도 내고 있는 거로 그렇게 알게 됐습니다. Okay. The next news is, this is very important news for the industrial property market situation. We know that last week also we had the same Amazon news, but today's Wall Street Journal reported a little bit in detail. Of course, we know that, right? Amazon tried to reduce their warehouse space. So they're going to reduce about 10 million square feet of warehouse space. Amazon is going to sublease, and possibly as much as triple that amount over time. So let's say triple is like a 30 million square feet warehouse space Amazon will sublease. So that will create impact to the warehouse market. Also, the flood of new supply from developers, right? This is no-brainer, because we know that the warehouse is very hot market, so a lot of developers trying to build new warehouses, of course, right? So with that flood of new supply, and Amazon is going to sublease, so about, let's say, max 30 million square feet warehouse is available in the market. So that means what? The market might be changed from the current situation. So that's what the warehouse owners or those the buyers who want to buy warehouses might think what's going to happen in the future. And it was a growing hot market sector in the warehousing, but the growth trends are slowing down in some markets, in part because Amazon is subleasing warehouse space after reporting in April it's the slowest growth in almost 2 decades. So in the last 20 years, it's continuously it grew, but it's the first time declined the growth. So they might be different. And also hear this out. Sales volume of industrial properties fell to 6.5 billion in April, down 43% compared to the same of the last year, according to MSCI Real Assets. So might be different in the future, the warehousing market. And also Amazon is one of it's interesting statistics. Amazon is one of the largest users of US industrial space, warehouse space, owning or leasing some 374 million square feet at the end of 2021. And one of a Canadian company keeps track of Amazon demand. Okay. So might be some change in warehousing market, but how much the change will be and how significant or how big impact to the warehousing market, we'll have to see. But there might be some change, definitely. 그 웨어하우스 마켓이 조금 달라질 수도 있겠다라고 보는 지금 시각이 있어서 월스트리트저널이 오늘 다시 아마존닷컴의 상황을 좀 보고를 했는데요. 아마존닷컴이 지금 미국 내에서 웨어하우스를 가장 많이 크게 쓰고 있는 회사 중에 하나고요. 그래서 2021년에 한 374 million square feet을 쓰고 있었는데 이제 그거를 지금 한 30 million 정도를 내놓는다면 10분의 1 정도 되겠네요. 아마 그렇게 예측을 하는 거죠. 서블리즈로 내놓을 것이다. 그러면은 거기에 누군가가 또 이제 들어가야 되고, 그 다음에 이제 서플라이 쪽에 얘기를 하는 거죠. 그리고 또 이제 새로 디벨롭하는 그 웨어하우스가 엄청 많으니까 그런 것들이 마켓에 나와서 이제 경쟁이 될 거다. 그러니까 그 프로퍼티 오너들, 웨어하우스 오너들이 이제 경쟁이 서로 생길 수 있다. 그렇다면은 값도 내려갈 수 있지 않겠나. 그런 이제 생각을 해보는 거죠. 왜냐하면 지금 4월 달에 1년 전 대비 세일즈 자체가 43%가 줄어서 6.5 빌리언 세일이 웨어하우스 세일이 이루어졌다. 그렇게 보는 거고요. 그리고 이제 그 마켓에서 이제 하는 얘기는 이 세일이 떨어진 거는 사실상 이자율이 올라가서 그렇게 거래가 줄어들었다라고 보는 각도도 있다. 그런 뉴스가 들어왔고요. Okay. The next news is adjustable home mortgage loans, ARM, right? ARM, return with changes. By the way, this ARM is one of the main reasons, the major reason of the financial crisis that we experienced through 2008 and 2009. But so we need to be careful, but this time is a different situation. A jump in interest rate have revived the demand for ARM, adjustable rate mortgages, but these loans bear little resemblance to the ones blamed for fueling the 2008 and 2009 financial crisis. So it's different from then. And according to the MBA, application for ARMs, a kind of a mortgage that carries a lower rate in the loan's early years, like initial 5 years, more than doubled in April from a year earlier. So April ARM application doubled from a year ago. More than 9% of mortgage applications submitted last week were for ARMs, up from 4% a year ago. And but in general, the overall ARM still made up a tiny fraction of the mortgage market, 2.1% in March, but up from 0.6% a year earlier. So now ARM is increasing. And but one time when we had a financial crisis, this ARM was almost half of entire mortgage, but right now it's at 2.1%. Okay, so we can see the chart. Okay, so this is our ARMs, number of ARMs. So it's more than like 35%, more than like 40% of entire mortgage loans. This is the problem area right here. Okay, and we hit the financial crisis. But after that, mortgage is kind of a smaller number. But now, to April and May is going to climbing up to 2.1% range, but it's got more from this chart. But anyway, and so this was a problem. It created a financial crisis, meltdown. But right now is different. Okay, even though ARM is going to be increased, why is it different? Because after financial crisis, they modified the ARM guidelines. The short-term teaser rates were banned. Like a short-term teaser rate means like 0% rate for like 1 year or 6 months. This like you can imagine the credit card, okay? some credit card offers 0 interest rate for 6 months, right? Initial 6 months or 1 year, like teaser rate they call. It's a band. They cannot do that anymore. The annual increase were capped. It has a maximum. And lenders and services must inform borrowers in writing of coming rate changes. Now, rate going up, they have to send a letter. And lenders cannot penalize borrowers who refinance on ARM or paid off earlier, early payoff. So they cannot penalize anymore. So they changed ARM. So now it's okay. That's what they're saying basically. And as I said before, if the difference between the 30-year fixed and a 5-year ARM becomes 1%, it's going to be more ARM applications. So right now is about, I think the difference is about 0.75%. 그 adjustable home mortgage가 이제 많이 지금 늘어나고 있다. 그런 뉴스는 좀 들으셨고요. 그 아까 차트에 보여드린 대로 그 당시 우리 financial crisis의 문제, everything meltdown 했죠. 그때는 거의 한 반 정도가 암이었다. 그래서 이 덩치가 사실은 미국의 financial crisis를 만들어낸 주 범인이었다. 이렇게 됐는데, 그럼 지금도 암이 올라가면 문제가 있지 않느냐? 그런데 이제 다른 시츄에이션이다. 왜냐하면 그 financial crisis 이후로 더 regulation이 타이트한됐다. 그래서 그렇게 우리 걱정할 그런 문제는 아니다. 지금 현재 전체적으로 뭐 2.1%밖에 안 된다는데 상대적으로는 암이 지금 상당히 늘었다. Last week 같은 경우에 애플리케이션이 9% 정도, 근데 1년 전에는 한 4% 정도 됐다. Okay, that's news from today's, no, not today's, a couple of days ago, Wall Street Journal. And the next news is big city losing population. Big cities in US losing population, especially in 2021. The big city population declines deepened across the US last year as the pandemic continued to send Americans in search of more space. Census figures shows Thursday. Well, before pandemic, actually, we have that trend, okay, a trend of the big city population decreasing. But with the pandemic, even it escalates the reducing the population in major cities. Collectively, in the 9 cities with more than 1 million people moved out of big cities. And totally, population fell 1.7% and loss of 419,000 residents collectively in 9 major cities. Only 2 cities in that group grew, Phoenix and San Antonio. It's all Sun Belt area, south. And New York, the largest city, among the 9 major cities, New York is the largest city, lost 3.5%. And it's about 305,000 people we lost. The second largest city, Los Angeles, lost 1%, which is 41,000. And third, Chicago lost 1.6%, that is 45,000 people. And San Francisco population fell, look at this, 6.3%, a loss of 55%. So the big cities need to wake up. And the onset of a pandemic is March 2020, set off the initial wave of a move out of cities. But the latest census figures suggest that shift continued as the pandemic dragged on and combined with other economic and demographic forces that began pushing Americans into suburbs and exurbs during the previous decades. Well, so it's not new phenomenon, but pandemic really escalate this move out of big city. So 그 뉴욕시티가 지금 현재 전체적으로 미국의 그 빅시티가 여기 통계에는 9시티, 9개 뉴욕, 9개의 그 메이저 시티를 비교해 봤는데 1 million people, 1 million 정도 그러니까 그 100만이 넘는 메이저 도시들 한 9개를 조사해 봤는데 전체적으로 1.7%가 줄었고 한 41만 9천 명 정도가 메이저 그 시티에서 벗어나서 서버브로 이사를 갔다. 그런데 두 도시만은 늘었다. 피닉스하고 샌앤토니오 전부 선벨트 지역이죠. 뉴욕이 가장 많이 이제 줄었는데 약 한 30만 명 정도가 줄었다. 그게 한 3.5%대고요. 그 다음에 숫자적으로는 뭐 LA가 1%, 시카고가 1.6%, 뭐 이렇게 줄었고요. 근데 샌프란시스코가 비율로는 제일 많이 줄었어요. 6.3%. 그래서 이제 메이저 시티들이 줄어가는 게 글쎄요, 이게 뭐 밸런싱을 맞춰간다 이렇게 생각할 수도 있겠죠. 그러나 generally 여러 가지로 인구가 준다는 것은 그만큼 여러 가지 그 활동이나 이런 것이 이제 준다고 하는 거가 되기 때문에 it's kind of interesting observation. Okay, next news is consumer confidence slipped in May amid stubborn inflation. Remember last week or 2 weeks ago, April still consumer spending is strong in spite of inflation. But in May, now consumer confidence went down a little bit. That's what they're saying. So consumer confidence index dipped to 106.4 in May, but still strong reading. But from April, 8.6 went down. And also expectation index. I didn't know there is expectation index, but based on a consumer 6 months outlook for income, business, and labor market conditions, also declined in May to 77.5 from 79 in April. So those indexes kind of went down in May. And consumers were slightly less optimistic about the labor market, even as U.S. employers have added at least 400,000 jobs for 12 straight months. So pushing the unemployment rate down to 3.6%. That is the lowest rate since the pandemic erupted 2 years ago. Okay, 그 메이에 조금 우리 consumer confidence가 조금 떨어졌다고 합니다. 그 consumer confidence index가 4월 달에는 108.6인데 106.4로 5월 달에 떨어졌다. 그리고 expectation index도 같이 떨어졌다. expectation index는 6개월을 내다보는 어떤 지표인데 인컴이나 비즈니스, 레이버 마켓 컨디션을 보고서 근데 아무튼 이런 인덱스가 있는데 2월 달에는 80이었는데 에이프릴에는 79, 그다음 5월 달에는 77.5로 떨어졌다. 지금 unemployment rate는 뭐 그냥 그런 대로 지금 3.6%니까 뭐 거의 완전 고용에 가깝다고 봐야 되겠죠. 그 2-year span 동안에 가장 지금 낮은 그런 상태다. Okay, the last news is home prices rise at record pace. Still, we're talking about home price rising? Yes. At least in March, statistics shows it's still rose, okay, year-over-year rate. S&P Core Logic Index rose 20.6% in the year that ends March, up from 20% annual rate in prior months. So April the core logic index rose 20%, but in March, February 20% increase, and March 20.6% increase. Core logic index is following 20 major cities in US. Okay. And that's the March, okay, marked the highest annual rate of price growth since the index began in 1987. So March still price going up, and nobody is saying the price is going to be decreased. So I think it's far away. First, we have to see this rate coming down, because 20% in February, now is 20.6% in March. So we have to see reducing this number first, okay? But this guy said, the managing director of S&P Dow Jones Indices, Craig Lazara, said, okay, those of us who have been anticipating a deceleration in the growth rate of US home prices will have to wait at least a month longer. So if we see, we'll see the statistics in April, right? We saw March, right? So April, maybe we'll see maybe 19 or 18%. That means the deceleration started, okay? Probably we'll see next month. And what is the general situation? I think pretty much the inventory of existing homes on the market in March set well below normal levels of that time of the year. Usually March, the inventory going up, but compared to seasonal situation, still well below the normal level. And of course, make it difficult for buyers to compete and pushing prices higher. And what about mortgage rate? Has climbed swiftly since the start of the year, while higher mortgage rate have started to reduce buyer demand. Home prices remain sky high as demand continue to exceed supply. Right now, the situation is demand, house buying demand continued to succeed supply. Okay, so that's the market situation. Okay, that's it for today. 지금 홈 프라이스가 계속 뭐 아직 통계가 지금 이게 항상 뒤늦죠. 그렇지만은 마치의 그 코어 로직 인덱스, 코어 로직 인덱스는 S&P 코어 로직 인덱스는 미국의 20개 도시의 집값을 비교하는데 페브루아리에 20%가 올랐고요. 1년 전 대비죠. 그다음에 마치에는 20.6%가 올라갔다. 그러니까 지금 여전히 제일 피크를 찍은 거죠. 레코드를 찍은 거예요. 아직까지는 언제? 1987년 이후로. 그래서 지금 이 S&P 다우 존스 인덱스의 그 매니징 디렉터 크레이그 라자라는 지금 디셀러레이션, 이게 줄어드는 거, 안 올라간다는 게 아니에요. 값이 떨어진다는 게 아니고 올라가는 속도가 줄어드는 걸 통계로 보기에는 아마 한 달 정도 더 기다려야 될 것이다. 그래서 계속 보도해드리겠지만은 브리프해드리겠지만은 아마 S&P 코어 로직 인덱스가 에이프릴에는 글쎄 뭐 2원이라든지 19%라든지 8%라든지 그렇게 줄어든다는 거지 홈 프라이스가 떨어진다는 건 아니죠. 오케이. 그런 상황이 지금 마켓이다. 여전히 여러분들이 생각하고 알고 계신 거하고 똑같아요. 마치에도 인벤토리가 굉장히 노멀 레벨보다 낮고 모기지는 올라가지만 그래서 어떤 바이어 디맨드는 조금 약화시켰지만 그래도 홈 프라이스가 스카이 하이인 이유는 디맨드가 바잉 디맨드가 서플라이를 능가하고 있기 때문에 여전히 홈 프라이스는 지금 스카이 하이다. 그러나 우리가 통계는 봐야 되겠죠. 에이프릴하고 메이가 어떻게 될지는 봐야 되겠지만 그러한 좀 상황이다. Okay, that's it for this week. The news brief. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week.